Today we're going to paint Black Templars from Warhammer 40k, and I'm going really in depth of how to paint Black Armour.
That the entirety of the cosmos is accessible to each and every individual's mind, connecting to the great mind, the great spirit.
Welcome back to the Studio Collectors. It's a new year and yes, we are back to making videos once more. I'm Kenneth and I like to paint miniatures, and I'm going to show you how to paint Black Armour on the Black Templars. For today's video, we're going to be focusing on the Marshal and how I'm going to finish it to great detail. So are you ready? Let us begin. So Black Armour fundamentally is pretty challenging to paint. Why? Because there is no color. Because there's no color on the miniature, we have no choice but to integrate external factors such as external lighting just to spruce up the black color on the armor itself. I just said an oxymoron there because black isn't technically a color. So in this painting tutorial, you will see me add multiple colors and play with the subtleties of color temperature in order to bring out the blackness in the Black Templars armor. So without further ado, we're going to paint up the black armor, and the best part is I'm not going to be using an airbrush this time round. So for this stage, the strategy is really simple. I'm going to go with some color temperature changes, going from cool to warm. As you can see, painting black is not as straightforward as just putting black, lighter grey, and eventually a white. I'm going to be playing with blues, I'm going to be playing with some oranges, because these colors are on the opposite spectrum of the color wheel. For this stage, I'm going to be using these colors right here. Alternatively, these colors from Games Workshop will work just fine. So let's gather up all these colors and let's get painting the black armor on this Marshal right now. Alright, so now that the model has already been primed in black, I'm going to be using dark sea blue to establish the initial highlights. So as I mentioned before, painting black isn't as just straightforward as using lighter greys. We're going to establish a cool initial layer, and this will help set the precedence for all the other layers that go on. At this point in time, I'd like to just give a tip to all you guys that are watching. Just be pretty generous with this color because it's very subtle. Next, mixing in a bit of dark grey and a bit of German grey. What we're going to do is we're going to establish the next value highlight. As you can see, I'm jumping color temperatures. I'm ensuring that this color temperature here is significantly warmer than the other color that we've put on, which is dark sea blue. And at this point of time, you just have to paint in within the shapes that you have painted from dark sea blue previously. This is shaping up really nicely already, and warming this up even further, adding in a little bit of Radiant Flash. Just adding in Radiant Flash, as you can see, brings up the value, and we are being very specific with the shapes right here. Okay, now we are going to bring up the value slightly further. Previously we have just modified the color temperature. Now we're going to push up the value. First, I'm going to add in a little bit of pale sand into the previous mix, and right here I'm just touching on the different points of highlights. Remember, you can always make the highlights as complicated as you want because this really brings out the black armor shine. So now that the difficult part is done, we're going to go on to the white cloak. The white cloak is probably one of the most prominent features on the Black Templar Marshal itself. For this stage, I'm going to be making the white cloak slightly warmer, a little bit of a bone color to have more contrast against the cool black armor which I've painted previously. So for this stage, these are the colors that I'll be using. Alternatively, these are the colors from Games Workshop that will work just fine. So let's gather up all these colors and let's get painting the white cloak on the Black Templar Marshal right now. Alright, so the base coat of this is going to be grimy grey. What we're going to do is just base coat the cloak in grimy grey, and I've just sketched out the red undertones. These red undertones are using just matte red mixed in with a little bit of black. At this point of time, I'm just really identifying the faces that are facing the light source. Next up, I'm going to be mixing in a little bit of colors here. I know it's quite a handful, just pause the video if you want to have a look. I'm just going to be blocking out the red shadow colors. These shadows can be a little bit extreme. If you are not a fan of such extreme value jumps, you can always mix in a little bit of the grimy grey to make sure that this isn't that contrasty. Otherwise, I'm just jumping back and forth to make this a smooth transition. From here, what you can see is I'm going to be using burnt red for the deeper shadows. What I want you to pay attention to is that as long as the highlight shapes are correct, even though they are very large and extreme value jumps, it's going to be just fine. This is going to be for the red light that's coming from the right hand side of this Marshal. There we go, looking good. Next up, we're going to be working on the highlights next. I'm going to be using grimy grey mixed in with a little bit of pale sand. This not only brings up the value, but it also maintains this warm and low saturation color, which is ideal for a highlight on this, well, bony colored top that he's wearing. So now that the main features of the Black Templar Marshal has been completed, we're going to be putting on some alternative lighting, maybe some underlighting to bring out some interesting features on the model itself. For this model, I'm going to be painting a rim light which is red in color on this model. So for this stage, I'm going to be using these colors here. Alternatively, these colors will work just fine. Let's gather up all these colors and let's get painting the red rim light on the Black Templar Marshal right now. Alright, so now we're going to be painting in the rim lights. From here, this rim light is going to be kind of extreme, but when you paint in the rim light into the black armor, you can really see how black armor not only reflects colored light, not because that black armor reflects this, is because of the glossiness that gives off this red light. Yes. Okay, so pushing on, we're gonna be increasing the value. Using blood red right here, we're going to be just picking out the little details. And what's important for this stage is you don't want to lose any saturation. Okay, so for the next stage, I'm just going over the entire model with a enamel panel liner. This helps me identify all the individual components so that I can edge highlight them subsequently. Now that most of the model is complete, I'm going to talk about some little features that I'll be covering on this model, such as the skin as well as the plasma gun. For this stage, I'm going to be painting the skin of the Black Templar Marshal using these colors right here. Alternatively, these colors from Games Workshop will work just fine. So let's gather up all these colors, let's get painting the skin on the Black Templar Marshal right now. Okay, so on top of the gunship green that we have painted on previously, I'm just going to be using basic flash to just base coat this area. Why do we base coat the green underneath? It's because we want to slightly desaturate the flash so that it looks kind of pale. I can imagine that Black Templar candidates tend to be kind of pale. I don't know, spending a lot of time in the monastery and praying, not enough sunlight, this is the result. Just a light wash there to identify the volumes. Okay, next up, if you notice that I add in a little bit of purple, this allows the skin tone to be a little bit cooler than what I usually paint. And I'm just going to be blocking out the values right here as a shadow color. So adding on a little bit of luminous flash, this is going to be the highlight color for the skin. I apologize that the camera is kind of out of focus here. But what I'm focusing on is the cheek, the chins, and the forehead. Because the Black Templar Marshal is holding on to a plasma weapon, I'm going to use this opportunity to put in a little bit of blue glow on the black armor to make it look a little bit more interesting. For this stage, I'll be using these colors right here. Alternatively, these colors will work just fine. So let's get out all these colors and let's get painting the plasma glow on the plasma pistol right now. Alright, first we're going to be using this Pterodon turquoise contrast as a wash to establish the initial colors on the plasma glow. This is the last stage, so you just want to push through and finish the model. Next up, I'm going to be using turquoise. This turquoise is going to be focused on the bottom half. I'm going to be painting the plasma glows such that the glow is emitting from underneath the coils rather than the coils itself. Using a little bit of sky blue and turquoise, I'm going to thin it down into a wash and wash it into the crevices. As you can see, this really helps the underneath shine and keeps the rails black. Now with pure sky blue, I'm just going to be focusing on the bottom rim, and I'm just going to be painting this on top of the rails itself to show that the light is actually leaking through the surfaces. And there we have it. This is the finished Black Templar Marshal model. It was really fun to paint this model, and I really enjoyed applying many different colors to make the black armor look as cohesive as possible. So if you watched all the way till now, I'd like to thank you for finishing the video, and I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed the video and learned something from this video. So if you did learn something from this video, I hope you give us a like and subscribe because it really helps grow the channel, as well as let us know that we did well. Alternatively, you can always just leave us a comment so that we know what you guys want to see us get painted. I know that we've been away for a little while, and thank you for sticking with us. At this point in time, I'd like to thank my patrons for allowing me to do this. It's through their generous support I get to paint and create miniatures such as this. So if you want to support the channel even further, why not head on to the Patreon and become a patron today. So thank you once again for watching all the way to the end. Remember, if you'd like to have me look at your work, always just tag me on Instagram at KolektivSG, and I'll be happy to drop you a comment right there. Thanks for sticking all the way through, and I hope to see you in the next painting video. See you.